After the marathon in Valencia last year, I told myself never again. My resolution lasted a full 2 days because 2 days later I got an email informing me that I was selected for the Berlin Marathon, and if you get selected for a major, you run that major. What are majors and what's the deal with the lottery? You'll find a separate video on that. So I ran it. Today I'll tell you how the organization looks, what you should know, and whether it's even worth running the Berlin Marathon. Let's go! The Expo and BIP pickup, just like for the half marathon, take place at the old Tempelhof Airport. Considering that 50,000 people participate in the race, it's worth going there early, although even that doesn't guarantee a quick and painless process. I was there on Friday around 1 p.m. and while I got into the airport area without a problem, I had to stand in line to get to the Expo and pick up my BIP. A few hours later, there was even a queue to enter the airport grounds, so don't delay your visit to the Expo. Inside, I faced a long snake-like queue which took me roughly half an hour. At the end of the line, you show your QR code from the registration and then move a few dozen meters to the next, much faster queue. After a few minutes, I got a wristband that allowed access to the BIP pickup and later entry to the start zones. With the wristband on, you can finally enter the Expo, and here you will reunite with any companions if you came with someone. The actual BIP pickup is quick, there are lots of windows and you can go to any one because the BIP numbers are printed on the spot. You show your QR code, ID and wristband and you get your race number. If you ordered extras like a t-shirt or a deposit bag, you'll get them here too. Don't forget the safety pins. One thing to note, if you didn't choose the deposit bag during registration, you won't be able to leave any personal items before the race, just saying. After that, you're at a typical Expo, lots of booths with shoes, sports clothing, supplements, etc. Adidas has the biggest booth as the main sponsor, where you could see new releases, touch the Adidas Pro Evo 1 or buy some merch. A lot of people chose the last option because the queues to the cash registers were huge. Overall, the Expo was really cool, though I suspect it might have been unbearably crowded later in the afternoon. The race village is in the Tiergarten area. The main entrance is by the Reichstag. I arrived about 1.5 hours before the start and the first thing I saw was a massive crowd. I got a bit worried that I'd have to stand in line again, but luckily getting into the village wasn't too bad. After entering, there's quite a long walk to the starting zones, and this is where you'll face a queue. The crowd moves slowly but steadily towards the zones, so be prepared for a few minutes of walking. Once you're inside the start zone area, it's much more spacious. Some people line up immediately to get into the start zone, which doesn't really make much sense. Others warm up in the Tiergarten, there's plenty of room so make use of it. And some head to the bushes for, well, nature calls. This last part might shock some people, but I must admit it's an aspect where the organizers didn't do well. There were far too few toilets and the ones that were there had queues up to several dozen minutes long, so no wonder people preferred the bushes. About 15 minutes before the start, I headed towards the actual start zones. There was a queue, but it moved fairly smoothly. At the entrance, they checked whether I was in the right zone. It's indicated on your race number, and I was in. Here's where another problem cropped up. I saw pacemakers for 3:15 and 3:45, but the 3:30 pacemakers were nowhere to be found. Only about a minute before the start did I see the flags at the very back of this zone, so I had to wait until my pacemakers caught up to me. With so many participants, don't expect a super smooth start. The first few kilometers are spent weaving through the crowd, a giant slalom. It's certainly not easy to maintain pace right from the start, but with such large event, you have to expect that. The further you go, the better it gets, but let's not kid ourselves, you're always running in a large group of people, constantly passing someone. I can count the free running moments on one hand. The course itself is really enjoyable. It's flat with few turns, mostly asphalt with some cobblestones, but they're in the minority. A big plus is that there are spectators almost the entire way, and cheer zones with loud music pop up frequently. that definitely gives you a boost. Water stations and snacks like bananas appear quite often, every 3-4 kilometers. The only downside is that they weren't super visible from afar, and not all were on both sides of the course. I missed a few stations, but luckily with the weather conditions like 9-14 degrees Celsius, it wasn't a big deal. It would have been worse if it had been hot. The kilometer markers were visible, which is definitely a plus. And the last kilometers, running around tons of spectators finishing under the Brandenburg Gate, were impressive and encouraged me to give even more. Sorry, I won't describe the course much because I don't really remember a lot. What I do remember is the pacemakers, who did a fantastic job. Despite the tricky conditions for overtaking, they navigated us smoothly to the finish. At the finish line, the first thing is, of course, the medal. Really nice medal. I think that's a thing of beauty. The volunteers urged people to keep moving, which is understandable given the number of runners. After the medal, there was a long walk to the exit. Along the way, you could grab a banana or an apple, drink water, warm tea, or cold non-alcoholic beer. Every runner also got a snack bag. If you didn't opt for the deposit bag, here's where you could also get a poncho to help maintain your body temperature. I took advantage of this. Before leaving the race village, you could get a massage, lymphatic drainage, or ring the bell to announce your personal best to the world. I don't have any recordings of this area because my phone went out and, well, I didn't have any tools to do it. Am I happy with my trip to Berlin Marathon? Absolutely. This was probably my first marathon ever where everything went according to plan. The training was done right, carb loading on point, I had enough sleep and I was well hydrated, plus good fueling during the race, fantastic weather conditions and excellent pacing by the pacemakers. All this led to my new personal best of 3 hours, 28 minutes, 8 seconds, full 15 minutes faster than my last year in Valencia. Would I recommend the Berlin Marathon? Definitely. It's an experience worth having, and despite some flaws, like not enough toilets at the start, constant queues, crowds everywhere, I can wholeheartedly recommend this marathon to you. Sign up for the lottery. Would I run it again? Probably not. I'd rather leave room for other majors. Berlin is already crossed off for me. Is it the best marathon I've run? Probably not either. Despite my fondness for Berlin, I have better memories of the marathons in Valencia and Paris. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments about your experiences with the Berlin Marathon. I also encourage you to subscribe to this channel and visit me on Instagram. See ya!